Hello, friends. This is Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today, March 30th, 2026. Thank you for joining us on this Monday edition of Weaponized News. We have a lot to get to today. We're on day 31 of the Iran war. What is going on at the White House? It's very bizarre. Trump says he's negotiating with Iran. Iran says they're not negotiating with Trump. What is going on here? We're going to take a look at this. The religious fanaticism of these maniacs coming out of the White House. Trump's threatening war crimes in a post on Truth Social. We'll cover that. The ongoing war. It's looking like ground troops, boots on the ground, as they say, anytime here. Anytime. We'll cover all that. We got economic news. We have some more Epstein news and more Iran war news. A little bit of geopolitical news in here as well. Thank you for joining us on this Monday edition of Weaponized News. I do believe we're broadcasting on Rumble today. Apologies for, yeah, I do see a comment there, Fat Bob, on the Rumble. Thank you for commenting there. Looks like Rumble is, we're broadcasting on Rumble. Thank you for joining us. Apologies for Saturday's show. I don't know what happened, but it's loaded up there now, but there was no live stream on Rumble. Shout out to the YouTube audience, as well as we're picking up some steam on the YouTube. All right. Got a lot of news to get to. Let's get to this day in history first. On this day in history of March 30th, we go back to the year 1814. We saw the Napoleonic Wars end. 6 coalition forces march into Paris after defeating Napoleon on this day, 1814. 1822, U.S. Congress combines East and West Florida into Florida Treaty, creating the one Florida. 1842, on this day, ether is used as an antiseptic for the first time by Dr. Crawford Long in Georgia. In 1856, on this day, we saw the Treaty of Paris signed. The British Empire, the British Empire too. The British Empire, the Russian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, France, and the Kingdom of Sardinia signed the Treaty of Paris, ending the Crimean War on this day, 1856. On this day, 1858, pencil with attached eraser is patented by Hyman L. Lipman out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I got that problem right now. I got a pencil here. I wore off all the eraser, you see. I don't know about you guys, but most of the time I like writing in pencil better than pen because I have to go back and erase it, especially when doing accounting work, dare I say. But yeah, wore out that eraser on this pencil. On this day in 1867, the United States buys Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million. Adjusted for inflation to 2018 dollars, that would be $109 million, roughly 2 cents per acre. I'd say that was one hell of a deal. The purchase of Alaska from Russia on this day, 1867. 1870 on this day, the 15th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution is adopted, guaranteeing the right to vote regardless of race. Still tricking us here. in this quote, democracy. Everybody's allowed to vote, no matter race, color, creed, sex, gender, whatever. But the candidates that the system will provide for you to vote for are the same person, just wearing different masks, you see, and spouting different rhetoric, of course, for the grassroots. But at the end of the day, they all serve the central banking cartel at the top of this pyramid. On this day in 1939, Batman debuts in the 27th issue of Detective Comics by DC Comics. 1939, Batman debut. 1944, on this day, 781 British bombers attack Nuremberg, Germany. 1945, on this day, the USSR invades Austria. 1969, on this day, loyalists bomb water and electricity installations in Northern Ireland in the hope that the attacks would be blamed on the IRA and on elements of the civil rights movement, which was demanding an end to discrimination against Catholics. So, as it's been said many times, history may not repeat, but it certainly does rhyme. We're back to blowing up civilian energy infrastructure and all civilian infrastructure, as electricity generation plants in Iran are being targeted. Civilian water infrastructure is being targeted, and universities of Iran are also being targeted. And we have a false flag too being claimed by Iran as well. We'll get to in later reporting. I believe it's an attack on a Qatari water distillation complex that Iran saying they didn't do it. I don't know. Can we trust any of these governments? No. But they're saying they didn't do it. We'll get to that reporting later in the show. 1972, on this day, North Vietnam launches a major conventional ground offensive attack against southern Vietnam. 1981, on this day, then President, Hollywood actor Ronald Reagan is shot and wounded in an assassination attempt by John Hinckley. Funny thing is, when there are reports that John Hinckley's father, I believe, was having dinner with the vice president, former CIA director George Bush, the night before. I believe that's actually what happened. And there's many reports that they put cold blood into Reagan, basically making him a vegetable or very low functioning. And CIA George Bush basically ran the Reagan administration. 1984, on this day, and are we to believe any of this now upon revelations that Epstein's estate, the Zorro Trust, won the New Mexico state lottery? Seems pretty rigged up to me. Anyhow, on this day in 1984, world's most valuable tip, and it's a very romantic story, I'll give them that, but are we to believe any of this is legitimate? 1984, world's most valuable tip, New York police detective Robert Cunningham offers waitress Phyllis Pinzo half of a $1 lottery ticket. The next day, they won $6 million. Are we to believe that was legitimate? I'm having a hard time believing it, but it is a feel-good story for the police and a poor waitress in New York. And on this day in the year 2000, Richard Branson is knighted by King Charles of Wales for service to entrepreneurship. Richard Branson, a virgin, looking like, yeah, he's in the Epstein class. And you better believe King Charles is in the Epstein class, with his former best friend being Jimmy Savile, and knighting characters like Richard Branson, who has his own Epstein Islands as well, out there operating right now. Truly, truly disgusting. And then on this day in 2023, Trump is indicted by a Manhattan grand jury on charges over hush money payments to porn star Stormy Daniels related to cover-ups from his first administration. So I believe they will cook up some bullshit like this, some sex porn star payoff, some nonsense, and they'll hit Trump with that again as Republicans lose this upcoming midterm election. And we're going to go through the whole fake impeachment BS again on some other thing rather than straight up treason and war crimes and crimes against humanity. And he's never been held accountable for Operation Warp Speed. So let's throw that into the impeachments as well. Of course, none of that will ever be brought up because the entire government is complicit in the conspiracy to terminate you and I, you see, is the problem with all of this. Seeking accountability from a corrupt government is just simply never going to happen. Okay. I don't even have a segue video. Congress last week went on a 2-week vacation in the middle of a major war with Iran. And TMZ put out the call. They're paying for to get these corrupt bastards out in the wild. What are they doing in their time off? So TMZ put out the call. Of course, that's the Hollywood, what do they call it? Tabloid kind of rag reporting on what the celebrities do out there. They put out the call, and they'll pay for photos of your government, your Congress. What are they doing out there on this 2-week recess? Well, turns out Lindsey Graham, who never saw a war he didn't want the United States to get into, senator out of South Carolina, this freak, unmarried man, constantly lobbying for direct war with Russia. He loves genocide out of Gaza. He just loves war, death, and destruction. A truly demented soul. Well, he was spotted over the weekend here now at Disneyland, walking around with a pink little Disney princess wand. And so, yeah, that's what this freak is up to. When he's not on cable news cheering on war. Who else? They got a couple others, but there's a bunch of different shots. It's a Lindsey Graham at Disney World with a Disney princess pink little baton there. Who else? They got a couple others. They got shots of Bernie Sanders on a plane, Ted Cruz on a plane, and who is this guy? This guy's all up. He's on the oversight committee. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Anyway, some Democrat. He's in Vegas gambling. That's his name, Robert Garcia. But they got a couple other ones. One of them at a baseball game. Who's that? Buddy Carter. Yeah. None really that bad. I mean, they should all be at work considering we're in a major war and figuring out how to end it. But that's not the top priority coming out of Washington, D.C. But just the freak show that is Lindsey Graham. How's this guy not laughed out of the room everywhere he goes at this point? Here's a fake poll, but the 33 calms are live and well. 33 calms. We don't put much stock in polls. This one out of the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. Presidential polls approval sinks to 33%. They say in this poll, a new national University of Massachusetts Amherst poll finds President Donald Trump's approval rating has fallen to 33%, the lowest rating of his second term in office. The poll of 1,000 respondents conducted March 20th through the 25th finds Trump's approval down 5 points from July 2025 and 11 points lower than last April. And his disapproval rating is up to 62% right there. For whatever this poll's worth, they are doing the Illuminati calms of the 33. So that's the only reason I even bring it up to you. But obviously, this is not a popular war. And then these clowns, how are they not? This is just really? Well, you're going to have to answer for your sins and your lies here. Now, aren't you? Here's a White House briefing bobblehead Lady Levitt today.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Could you hear our amen in there? We just said a little loud prayer as a team. In this Holy Week, President Trump and the First Lady are joining in prayer with Christians celebrating the resurrection of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
That's what they're selling. Maybe we should donate to Paula White. That's one of Trump's top spiritual advisors. Let's play this video. Can honor God by tithing to these demons.
As you honor God, as you recognize the power of the blood covenant, boy, what exciting times. It was an amazing time when Jesus would ride in on that donkey and make his grand entrance. I want to take you into the word in just a moment that I preached in the sanctuary, but before I do, let's receive God's tithe and his offering. I believe that it's so important to honor God with his tithe. That's the first tenth of your gross income. And an offering, that's free will. And as you do, you support Paula White Ministry. And I say this, it takes money for ministry. And so when you begin to think of the masses of people, from single moms to human trafficking victims to going into the prison to feeding over 30 million pounds of food, think about that in the last 4 years. When you think about the difference that you make by your giving, you've helped build a moshav, a village in Israel, from the horrific attacks of October 7th. And the greatest thing you do is take the gospel around the world. How will they hear without a preacher? God still uses a voice to proclaim his word that's anointed to penetrate the hearts of men and women and bring them to the salvation knowledge of Jesus Christ. Thank you for being that person, that Barnabas. Thank you for being that person that's holding up the hands for the gospel to go forth. So go ahead and click on that link right there on the screen, or you can give by Cash App or Venmo or PayPal or however you want to. But thank you for being a generous and liberal giver. Amen.
There you go. Donate to these demons so they can build more settlements there in Aardvark land. Here you go. Here's little Marco on Good Morning America. Tell us, little Marco.
These people are lunatics. They are insane. They are religious zealots who can never be allowed to possess a nuclear weapon because they have an apocalyptic vision of the future. And all of their neighbors know that, by the way, which is why all of their neighbors have been supportive of the efforts.
Little projection there out of little Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. That's actually who's running America, are religious fanatical maniacs. Here's a funny one. They got fact checked. The White House got fact checked. See if I can play this clip. They're not liking this one. Okay, here we go. I'll play the clip and then read you the fact check on this from Bobblehead Levitt.
You said yesterday, and I quote him, God does not listen to the prayer of those who wage war. Can you comment on that?
I think our nation was a nation founded 250 years ago almost on Judeo-Christian values, and we've seen presidents, we've seen the leaders of the Department of War, and we've seen...
The reporter said God doesn't favor those waging war. And then she said she went into the bobblehead Judeo-Christian lie. It was fact-checked on X. The fact-checker said the U.S. was founded on Enlightenment Christian values. The term Judeo-Christian did not even appear until the 1800s, and the modern definition came into usage in the 20th century. I'm sure God appreciates the lies coming out of these demons. And look into it, man. Majority of the founding fathers were deists. Just look into it. Just saying. But I know it's always been aardvarks. Aardvarks founded America, if you didn't know. And here's this is what America, the good Christians out of the White House are supporting. Aardvark land destroyed the mausoleum of Simon Peter, Apostle of Christ, in the village of Shama in southern Lebanon. It was estimated to be between 1,925 and 1,995 years old. There's a clip of that. They leveled the place, and then you have a wasn't the Muslim terrorists that did that. It was the our Judeo partners over there. And you got Bibi. I'm not even playing the clip, but you can go find it. Bibi says that they fully support Christians in aardvark land, and we know that's simply not the truth. But they're pumping that propaganda this Easter week. And then here's a flashback. We played this, but it's worth replaying again to illustrate the religious fanaticism coming out of the Department of War and your Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth.
Almighty God, who trains our hands for war and our fingers for battle, you who stirred the nations from the north against Babylon of old, making her land a desolation where none dwell. Behold now the wicked who rise against your justice and the peace of the righteous. Snap the rod of the oppressor, frustrate the wicked plans, and break the teeth of the ungodly. By the blast of your anger, let the evil perish. Let their bulls go down to slaughter, for their day has come, the time of their punishment. Pour out your wrath upon those who plot vain things and blow them away like chaff before the wind. Grant this task force clear and righteous targets for violence. Surround them as a shield. Protect the innocent and blameless in their midst. Make their arrows like those of a skilled warrior who returned not empty-handed. Let every round find its mark against the enemies of righteousness and our great nation. Give them wisdom in every decision, endurance for the trial ahead, unbreakable unity, and overwhelming violence of action against those who deserve no mercy. Preserve their lives, sharpen their resolve, and let justice be executed swiftly and without remorse, that evil may be driven back and wicked souls delivered to the eternal damnation prepared for them. For the wicked flee when no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. We ask these things with bold confidence in the mighty and powerful name of Jesus Christ, King over all kings, and amen. Amen. And may the righteous be as bold as a lion. May we pray such prayer for our men and women in harm's way right now. To think that such Americans exist on our behalf, on behalf of the American people.
Yeah, they're brainwashed by the military. Here's NBC asking, under international law, strikes on civilian infrastructure, like Trump's talking about in his, I guess we should show you the post here first. Here's Trump's, I guess international law is a joke, so does it even really matter? Here's Trump's post earlier today. It says the United States of America is in serious discussions with a new and more reasonable regime to end our military operations in Iran. Great progress has been made, but if for any reason a deal is not shortly reached, which it probably will be, and if the Strait of Hormuz is not immediately open for business, we will conclude our lovely stay in Iran by blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, and Karg Island, and possibly all water distillation plants, which we have purposely not yet touched. This will be in retribution for our many soldiers and others that Iran has butchered and killed over the old regime's 47-year reign of terror. He's threatening war crimes in that post. Here's Bobblehead Levitt when asked about it today by NBC reporter. Sorry about that. Had to mute.
The president posted this morning about, his threat that on leaving Iran, he said we might be blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, Karg Island, and possibly all desalinization plants. Under international laws, striking civilian infrastructure like that is generally prohibited. Why is the president threatening what would amount to potentially a war crime with the U.S. military? And how do you square that with the administration repeatedly saying that the U.S. does not target civilians?
Look, the president has made it quite clear to the Iranian regime at this moment in time, as evidenced by the statement that you just read, that their best move is to make a deal, or else the United States.
And what, 3 days ago, he said, "Oh, we're not gonna strike civilian infrastructure. Let's make a deal." And then Aardvark Land turns around and bombs the hell out of Iranian civilian infrastructure, water plants, water infrastructure. Now they're bombing electrical infrastructure. They're bombing universities. Now people are saying, well, you should have known, you should have found this old clip from 1987, and this was what Trump's really all about. Trump posted this on his Truth Social from 1987, talking about we should steal all of Iran's oil. And now they're trying to spin it. Well, he always campaigned on stealing the world's oil.
I'm running for the presidency. I'm here because I'm personally tired of seeing this great country of ours being ripped off.
But as far as Trump is concerned, our allies are only part of the problem. The real culprit is Iran.
Why couldn't we go in and take over some of their oil, which is along the sea?
How would you do that? Would you send in the Marines? Would you take a chance in a war?
Let them have Iran. You take their oil. That's what
how?
How?
I mean, do we want a war? What do you mean we take their oil?
You go in.
How do we go in?
You're going to have a war by being weak.
Okay, how do we go in? What do we do?
Excuse me.
Yeah?
You're going to have a war. And it's going to start in the Middle East.
What if the Soviet Union said, you do this to Iran, we're going to come in?
I don't believe they'd do it. The next time Iran attacks this country, go in and grab one of their big oil installations, and I mean grab it and keep it, and get back your losses, because this country has lost plenty because of Iran.
We've been at war with Iran for 47 years. We just didn't know it. More from Bobblehead out of the White House, just a never-ending stream of propaganda and lies.
Because Americans are sort of seeing these conflicting messages between the United States and Iran. I know the president insists that negotiations are underway. As you just mentioned, he's also said that Iran has agreed to most of the 15 points. We just heard from Iran again. They're saying no negotiations are taking place. They're calling the proposal excessive, unrealistic. So how do you square that? How do you explain that discrepancy between the two?
I think the American people are smart enough not to take the word of a terrorist regime that has chanted death to America for 47 years at their word. And I hope the journalists in this room are wise enough not to take
Somebody's lying. My money's on the White House is lying here. My money is on the White House is lying. Well, there's more. Yeah, they're blowing up. Here's some about banning the Catholics. Banning the Catholics from the great Christian supporters of Aardvark land.
On the Middle East, and then a question on Antifa. Netanyahu said Sunday that Cardinal Pizzaballa will be able to hold services for Palm Sunday in the Church of Holy Sepulchre after he was initially blocked by Israeli police. Did anyone from the administration or the president call over to Israeli officials to assist the cardinal in this?
Yes, I did speak with Secretary Rubio this morning, and we did express our concerns with Israel with respect to these holy sites being shut down. We want worshipers to be able to access these holy sites. Of course, safety is a top priority, but we understand Israel is working on those security measures to reopen the site.
They got the Al-Aqsa Mosque closed right now just to piss Muslims off and disrespect them when they're holy site during the Holy Week. Here's little Marco Rubio on Iran, a little bit more.
Seeing if they're the ones that have the power to deliver. We're going to test it. We are hopeful that that's the case. There are clearly people there talking to us in ways that previous people in charge in Iran have not spoken to us in the past. Some of the things they're willing to do, some of the things they're saying they're willing to do. Obviously, they have to go do it. We're going to test that proposition very strongly because we...
Well, who the hell are they even talking to if they're talking to anybody? Is it little Marco on his shoe phone calling Trump? Like what? Iran rejects all reports of talks with the U.S., according to its foreign minister. What happened? Requests for negotiations accompanied by U.S. proposals through intermediaries. We will not forget the betrayal that diplomacy has faced twice in less than a year. It's Iran foreign minister, this dude. So who the hell, what is going on? Does Trump really believe he's talking to Iranians to negotiate a ceasefire peace deal? Is this just all made up bullshit? Another Iranian here, Baghai, he says the U.S. proposals conveyed to Tehran were excessive and unreasonable. Iran is not involved in Pakistan-led meetings. Is the White House talking to Pakistani scammers? Acting like they're representing Iran? Like what is seriously going on here? It's just all lies? Well, it may be just all lies. Here's Trump admitting they're going to go ahead and build a bunker underneath his his ballroom project. Let's watch this.
Now the military is building a big complex under the ballroom, which has come out recently because of a stupid lawsuit that was filed. But the military is building a massive complex under the ballroom, and that's under construction, and we're doing very well. So we're ahead of schedule. That's part of it. The ballroom essentially becomes a shed for what's being built under the military, including from drones and including from any other thing. The glass on the windows, you see the big windows, the glass is extremely thick. It's high-grade bulletproof glass.
So these assholes bomb the world, piss the world off at every American, get a global jihad declared against us, and they go hide in their bunkers. That's your government, pieces of shit. Straight up. And now they're going to send American troops to go die in Iran. Here's Joe Kent.
This week, President Trump will be under immense pressure to commit ground troops to the war in Iran. This would be a catastrophic escalation that will only result in more bloodshed and further escalate this disastrous war. It is critical that we, the people, have our voices heard. Contact the White House comment line, contact the Congressional Switchboard, ask for your representative, ask for your senators. Respectfully tell them that we do not support putting any boots on the ground in Iran. This is how we, the people, can have our voices heard. It's critical that we pray for peace, but it's also critical that we work towards peace. Respectfully contact your elected officials and let them know we, the people, do not support.
That's a nice sentiment there, Joe Kent. They don't give a fuck. They're on vacation. Excuse my language. It's pissing me off, man. There are now over 50,000 American troops in the Middle East, according to a report out of the failing New York Times here. I believe there's even more than that. There's even more than that. ZBS News reports Special Operations Forces, Marines, and Army troops now in the Middle East. Hundreds of U.S. Special Operations Forces, including Navy SEALs and Army Rangers, are now in the Middle East, as well as thousands of Marines and Army paratroopers, according to Pentagon sources. The sources said having the forces in the region gives President Trump military options in Iran, including operations that could target opening the Strait of Hormuz, take oil from Karag Island, or seize Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium. Are they going to send U.S. troops on this wild goose chase of trying to track down the alleged enriched uranium that may or may not be somewhere in Iran? Very sad clips here now. Here's a clip of some U.S. troops before they're being deployed with their families. They seem gung-ho about the whole military adventure. They're like, well, at least you're dying for Judeo-Christian values, which this country doesn't even have. It's made up Zog propaganda. They're like, well, at least we got that, right? Here you go. Some more of these sad scenes of the troops. They may never see their family again. Probably get tagged for copyright on that one, man. They tag you for like 3 seconds of whatever. Anyhow, it's not looking good. It's not looking good on the peace front. Hey, but don't you worry. Aardvark Land, our greatest ally, has our back. Channel 12 out of Aardvark Land says that if U.S. launches ground operation in Iran, Aardvark troops will not take part in the combat. And I think this is just to piss people off out of this aardvark propaganda rag called Axios. But they put this report out today. No money for healthcare, but $200 billion for war. Republicans are considering cutting federal healthcare spending to help fund a budget bill that includes up to $200 billion in funding for the Iran war and possibly immigration enforcement. Yeah, we're not getting our mass deportations, but we are getting mass bombing campaigns. And honestly, I don't know what 200 billion, I can't even get into it, about the whole public health issue here from Rockefeller Medicine. Who's backing Iran? The access of the resistance. Well, some of the groups are Iraqi Shia militias, Hezbollah, the Houthis, China, Russia. There's groups in Syria as well, and other militia groups as well. Those are the biggest, best organized with the biggest bombs, apparently. But yeah, let's see here now. Well, more war reporting, but here is, I thought we were shrinking the government, but turns out the White House has put out a call to go ahead and recruit the youth to work for the government. Maybe the only jobs left here until they cut those and you're replaced by AI. Here's propaganda coming out of your conservative government about growing the government through youth employment.
Every day, Americans wake up and go to work, building, protecting, and shaping a better future. It's our rich legacy. Since the founding of our republic, service has been part of who we are. In uniform or out, Americans always rise above. For country, for community, for each other. Through 250 years, when duty has called, Americans have answered loudly. Now, it's your turn. Today, more than ever, our government needs its best and brightest, problem solvers, innovators, and leaders to serve. Those opportunities are here. Serve your country, build your career, make an impact that matters. Your country is calling. Start your mission today.
Earlycareers.gov, I thought we were shrinking the size of government. But hey, you too can work for the crime syndicate known as the U.S. federal government. The White House app, I wouldn't download it. They're pushing this heavy. They're pushing that heavy. It's got trackers all over it, beyond the pale of ridiculousness. They're pushing technocracy hard and heavy out of the White House as well. Fostering the future together. Here's propaganda from First Lady Melania Trump. Fostering the future through humiliation rituals waged by the government against the American people. Here's one more of them.
45 of you have traveled from every corner of the planet to represent your nation as a part of this new coalition.
It's a great pleasure to be in Washington and to be part of such an historic event.
To give us this opportunity, a platform to discuss children in the digital era.
To promote the use of AI and advanced technologies that empower children to become innovators, creators, and leaders in the world of the future.
If we can come together collectively in a coalition like this, I believe the world will listen.
Technology must empower people. It must reduce, not increase inequality.
This is courageous of her. You know, we're experiencing something at a global level, and so we should really be moving forward together.
We can build the bridges necessary to ensure children in Malawi and elsewhere have access to tools they need to thrive.
Under the leadership of First Lady Melania Trump, technology is being shaped not as a force of risk or division, but as one of opportunity, protection, and hope.
The nations represented in this room reflect great human potential. Let's foster the future together.
Very demoralizing there for Americans, but what the hell? It's what we deserve. Go MAGA. I was, well, thankfully, Palm Beach International Airport renamed after Trump, feeding his megalomania here. Florida's making it official. Welcome to the new President Donald J. Trump International Airport. Will Joe Blow Americans even be able to afford to travel on via airplane? Not looking good. Not looking good. I guess there's still a partial government shutdown. You will be radiated and date raped at the airport by your government under the security theater guise of protecting you from terrorism. Here's the one I couldn't find on Saturday's show. Here is your corporate government. I don't know why I couldn't find this one, but this is America250.org. This is your corporate government right here, all the sponsors of it. So that's your real government, not these politicians on your television. It's these guys right here. And our favorites, Lockheed Martin, Oracle, and Palantir. So there you go. And of course, you can't forget Goldman Sachs gives, of course, their philanthropy arm, and JP Morgan. So there's your real government right there. The military industrial complex and the big bank, Citibank, and it's all right there. They're war profiteering. They're beyond criminal, and praying to Jesus at the same time. So have fun. Have fun when you got to explain this. Pete Hegseth, broker, looked to buy defense fund before Iran attack, according to a report out of the Financial Times. Limited direct market impact. Financial Times reports gated broker for U.S. Defense Secretary Hegseth explored defense ETF investment pre-Iran strike. Morgan Stanley approached BlackRock over multi-million-dollar allocation. Target fund focused on defense contracts benefiting from rising military spending. Investment did not proceed due to platform availability constraints. Timing likely to raise security scrutiny given Hegseth's central role in the Iran campaign. No suggestion of wrongdoing, but optics likely to draw attention. You think, who are these mystery profiteers that before Trump makes an announcement they know are going to move the markets one way or another, put in giant bets and profiteer handsomely? That's an ongoing trend people are noticing. The IRS wants smarter audits. Palantir could help decide who gets flagged. So that's exciting news. The Internal Revenue Service paid Palantir $1.8 million last year to improve a custom tool designed to help the tax agency identify the highest value cases for audits, collection of unpaid taxes, and potential criminal investigations, according to documents Wired magazine obtained. But the whole thing's a giant fraud. We'll get to it here. Trump pardoned nursing home owner Joseph Swartz just 3 months into his sentence for a $39 million fraud scheme. Meanwhile, families who won multi-million-dollar wrongful death suits against Swartz haven't been paid. But what the hell? He deserved to be pardoned, according to Trump. That's a report out of ProPublica. This character right here. And of course, you would know his background by the hat he wears there, you see. And so well deserved of a pardon there by Trump. The average IRS tax refund is up 11% compared to last year. And they're pumping this propaganda. Hey, all taxation's theft. Your government's insolvent and they're illegitimate. Uncle Sam needs you to help root out fraud. So become a rat for the government. I would not suggest signing up for this, but hey, they pumped this propaganda when the entire system in and of itself is a fraud. Do you understand? Treasury Secretary Bissett is launching a new program today that will reward tipsters with up to 30% of the fines imposed on criminals who are trying to bleed U.S. taxpayers dry. Why don't you have Palantir stick a camera up everybody's rear end? What a load of shit. I would suggest for your own well-being, never become a rat for the feds. Just saying. And here it is. The whole system's a fraud in and of itself. Here's a Fed Chair Jerome Powell talking about the national debt. Over $39 trillion and ticking away by the second.
I don't think we know what that number is, sort of ratio of debt to GDP, where it would be a problem. There are, of course, Japan being a great example. There are countries that have much higher levels of sovereign debt to their GDP than we do. What's clear is that our debt is growing much faster. The federal government debt is growing substantially faster than our economy, and that ratio is going up. And in the long run, that's kind of the definition of unsustainable. The level of the debt is not unsustainable, but the path is not sustainable. And so it's really important that we get back to, we don't have to pay the debt down, we just need to have primary balance and begin to have the economy actually growing better, growing more quickly than the economy. It will not end well if we don't do something fairly soon. This is not the Fed's job, of course, and I pretty much limit myself to those high-level points which essentially everyone ignores.
There you go. Chair of the Federal Reserve. Sounds like weaponized news. We've been telling you that same thing for a long time here now. But don't pay any attention and just, I heard the mRNA boosters are still on the market. So there you go. A Walmart-related recession indicator that's predicted the last 4 economic downturns is flashing red, according to a report of Business Insider. One economic indicator suggests pain is coming for the U.S. The Walmart recession signal. The measure looks at Walmart's stock price relative to a basket of luxury goods. A sharp increase in the Wall Street recession signal has preceded the last 4 U.S. recessions. Everybody loves war. Oh, here again, I feel like the Fed chair, nobody listens. Fortune magazine, he alluded to this, yeah. I don't agree with him that we don't have to pay down the debt, but yeah, when your economy consists of government spending, and that's your GDP output based on debt, then you don't have an economy. You have a Ponzi scheme scam. That's exactly what we have here. The Treasury just declared the U.S. insolvent. Fortune magazine last week. And then they appointed Mr. Technocracy, J.D. Vance, to the fraud task force when he's a fraud in and of himself. Can't even figure out what his name is, constantly changing identities, political ideology, and will literally tell any lie he believes the public wants to hear for votes. The new head of the Federal Fraud Task Force, Mr. Technocracy, J.D. Vance. Oh, and there's also reports he's starting to notice that the Iran war may not be as popular as first polled by their echo chamber of fake Republicans, and now is trying to distance himself from the Iran war as part of his 2028 presidential bid.
The president put us really from day one of the Trump administration, who said we have to take the fraud issue seriously. We think fraud has been a problem for a long time. It became a massive, massive problem under the Biden administration.
So isn't this just more demoralization, humiliation rituals when this guy is a fraud?
What we're going to actually do is force the bureaucracy to take this seriously and work together as political principles to make sure that we stop allowing fraudsters to steal the American people's money. This is not just theft of the American people's money, this is also theft of critical services that the American people rely on.
The people at this table are all united in absolute determination to stop this plague of fraud, criminality, and abuse.
It has to stop. The President of the United States has ordered us to stop it, and that's what this task force is going to do.
Well, that's all a lie, because if they were telling the truth, then they would all be lobbying to send the U.S. Marshals over to the Federal Reserve and every major bank in this country and arrest every executive there. That's not ever going to happen. So they're all criminal fraud liars. We're at the top of the hour here. Let's take our live commercial break. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this Monday edition of Weaponized News. We're in day 31 of the Iran war with no end in sight, with Orwellian levels of propaganda coming out of the White House as per usual. Everybody go to weaponizednews.com. Get yourself a holograph sticker there. Here's the clear background sticker and the white background sticker there. Put it on your laptop, your bumper, your guitar, your work locker, your hard hat, your Cybertruck. It's been spotted out there in the wild, many different places. We appreciate all the patrons too. weaponizednews.com/shop. The link is in the description below this video. We got t-shirts, baseball caps, coffee mugs, all kind of gear over there. Go check out weaponizednews.com/shop. Help support independent reporting and analysis, brought to you here 5 days a week, sometimes 6. Broadcasting live, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern. Independent reporting and analysis, brought to you here by Weaponized News. If you don't want to patron the store, donations are appreciated. If you want to become a paid subscriber, Weaponized News Substack, link is in the description below. I put the links to almost everything I talk about on Weaponized News Substack for your further research and reference. That's the value added there. It's always been free. It always will be free here at Weaponized News. We give away all of our research, interviews, documentaries, everything free. We're relying on you, the audience out there, to give us some help in these economic hard times. And if you can't afford to give us a donation, buy me a coffee, Cash App, Bitcoin wallet address, all in the description below this video. If you can't afford that, it's understandable. I do appreciate the quickly devaluing dollars, as it's still, what is it, $6 a gallon now for gas over here in California where I'm at. Any which way you choose to support this broadcast is truly appreciated. Thank you for all of the patrons to the store and the paid subscribers. Give us that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. All of that is free. weaponizednews.com/shop. Thank you for your support. Thank you for joining us on this Monday edition of Weaponized News. Welcome to the second half of the show on this March 30th, 2026 edition, as we are in the season of sacrifice. We covered that, 2 Fridays ago with Will Keller. And so all of that's going on in the background too. We have blood ritual sacrifices to fulfill for the evil entities that these bastards serve. And so the season of sacrifice is going on right now. We'll get to some of that reporting here coming up. Back to a little bit more economic reporting. Let's watch this report. Maybe we won't get to that report. Sometimes it gets sketchy here. I don't know what's up. X. Well, the U.S. back to this report using $4 million, seeing different estimates. That's a low ball. $4 million Patriot missiles to shoot down $30,000 Iranian drones. Let's watch this report. Not a very good cost benefit. Looks like we're spending up $1 million old munitions to bring in possibly the Lucas drone after we spent all our old munitions, and Lockheed Martin is very happy about this.
So the Gulf, what they've been using so far in this 1 month of conflict with Iran is using Patriot and THAAD missiles, which come at a steep price. A Patriot missile costs around $4 million. A Ukrainian interceptor drone, the Sting type, for example, the most popular one that they make around 30,000 of each month, is $2,000. So this is a way for Ukraine to provide a cost-efficient and sustainable defense against those thousands of drones that Iran has launched over the past month. Now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that his teams are finalizing the deal when it comes to the UAE deal, for example, so we don't believe that there are any specific numbers on paper as to how much of what Ukraine is providing to the Gulf states. But Zelensky also said that the Gulf has what Ukraine needs. We could only speculate here, but it looks like Ukraine is interested in funding, and it's interested in not having a situation that the Gulf, using so many of its Patriot missiles, will divert supplies of these Patriot missiles to Ukraine that it needs when it comes to downing ballistic missiles coming in from Russia.
What a freaking disaster. So oil at the highest price since 2022. Let's look at our live trading today. It did break $100. A barrel up to $112.78 for a barrel of crude oil. Right now, live trading overseas, oil's at $104.34. Live trading, the prices are fluctuating. Obviously, gold at $4,537. Silver up at $70.59. Bitcoin, $67,014. And of course, the Dow Jones is well below 50,000. So Yeah, it's at 45,216, around there, closing today. So more on this report. The last time that crude oil settled over $100 per barrel was July 2022. This surge comes right after Trump openly said that he wants to take the oil in Iran, including possibly seizing Karag Island, which handles 90% of Iran's oil exports. And as the Houthis officially jumped into the war, what this means immediately: higher costs for everything. Oil is used in everything, thanks to the Rockefellers. Oil is used in plastics, chemicals, fertilizers, shipping, and manufacturing. Expect price increases on groceries, goods, flights, and delivery services. What this means on a broader scale: inflation spike. Central banks will face a tough choice between fighting inflation and supporting growth. Slower growth, recession risk. If oil stays very high, $140 plus for a month, analysts warn of a near standstill in parts of the economy, higher unemployment, and even recession risks. We're already in a depression, but we keep playing these games of fake government data as if it actually means anything from these freaking liars. Stock market pressure. Energy stocks may benefit short term, but broader markets, especially airlines, consumer goods, and transport, suffer. We're not yet in a full 1970s style crisis territory, but the longer prices stay this high, especially if the Strait of Hormuz stays closed, the bigger the drag on the global economy becomes. That's reported out of CNN. Emergency talks on Iran war. Foreign ministers from Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman, Jordan, and Russia all met online today. So Russia's also there, and that's a report out of Al Jazeera. They did a video conference. Today. But hey, our lying Treasury Secretary, let's hear from him.
The market is well supplied, and we are seeing more and more ships go through on a daily basis as individual countries cut deals with the Iranian regime for the time being. But over time, the U.S. is going to retake control of the straits, and there will be freedom of navigation, whether it is through U.S. escorts or a multinational escort.
It's bullshit. And they're out there, oh yeah, we're negotiating. They're letting ships pass through. No, it's Pakistani ships were the ones that passed through. The 20 ships. And China was able to pass some ships through. And you have Trump acting like he had something to do with it. But he ended 8 wars, let me tell you.
Not only is the sovereignty over the Straits of Hormuz not acceptable to us, it won't be acceptable to the world. No one in the world can accept it. Number one, it sets an incredible precedent. So this means that nations can now take over international waterways and claim them as their own. The United States could do that now. The Chinese could do it in the South.
The United States is doing that. And they're trying to have it both ways here again. You can't say F international law one second out of this side of your mouth, and then, oh, they're violating international law out of the next side of your mouth. Shut up, liars. Here's propaganda, another Lego video coming out of Iran. They're doing better propaganda than the United States at this point. It's pretty sad. For as much taxes as we pay, we should get better propaganda that actually tracks with some type of reality instead of just made up bullshit.
Sir, Iranians have released a new Lego-style animation.
Some bold propaganda coming out of Iran right there. Are they going to, that is the U.S. military on Trump's orders, send Marines somewhere to land in Iran and get slaughtered, and then use that as the excuse for a wider war and to rally the American people wrapped in the flag? Looks like that is a definite possibility. A cluster. Here's some maybe good news. I don't know. Feels like we're getting screwed. Rockefeller oil oligarchs gouging prices, blowing up energy infrastructure all over the Middle East. All of this is compounding, but maybe some good news here out of California. A cluster of oil platforms off the California coast has begun selling crude oil for the first time in over a decade, shipping supplies to Chevron refinery near Los Angeles, according to a report out of Bloomberg. Let's take a look at our daily look at the national average for a price of a gallon of gasoline, according to AAA here. $3.99. We're almost breaking that $4 threshold. Maybe that report of offshore drilling can help California out, as we're getting screwed big time over here. $5.87 a gallon. And it's no secret. I went to, where did I go? Chevron gas station to fill up my wife's car with the gasoline last night. And they have a big old sign. There's a big old sign right there from Chevron telling you, like, literally, don't blame us for the high gas price. It's your state. And we've went over all those numbers. And they have a little QR code you can scan. They give you a breakdown. So like $1.70 added onto the price here in California due to all these different taxes, regulations, and the like from the state of California. So we do appreciate their efforts here to keep us poor, all while saying out of the other side of their mouth from the state of California how much they care about the poor people. What's Egypt? Egypt's been pretty quiet throughout this whole thing. Egypt's starting to speak up now. El-Sisi, president of Egypt, today urges Trump to end the Iran war, warns oil could top $200 a barrel. El-Sisi said, I tell President Trump, nobody can stop the war in our region, in the Gulf, but you. Well, yeah, he's the one bombing everything. Sisi said at the Egypt Energy Show 2026 conference in Cairo, quote, please, Mr. President, please help us stop the war. You are capable of doing so. He added, I fear that targeting energy facilities, whether production or refineries, will have very serious repercussions for the global economy and fuel prices. He said market watchers have warned the price of a barrel of oil could reach more than $200. And this is not an exaggeration, he said. Wealthy countries might be able to absorb this, but for middle income and fragile economies, it could have very, very severe impact on stability. Yeah, the UN already said they're estimating millions of people are going to starve to death in the third world and fourth world because of this. And the fourth world, I just made up my own definition. The fourth world is the rubble and the tents that the poor souls there in Gaza are living in, is the fourth world. I just made that up, but what the hell? Reminds me of the fourth world. Okay, so yeah, all around the world, major impact of this. Despite the war and sanctions, Iran has nearly doubled its oil revenues, exporting about 2.4 to 2.8 million barrels of oil today at much higher prices. China is buying over 90% of Iranian oil exports. Well, thank you very much for backhandedly propping up the Russian war machine and the Iranian war machine there. We do appreciate those efforts out of the Trump administration. 2 Chinese-owned cargo ships passed through the Strait of Hormuz on Monday, the first major container vessels to do so since the war with Iran began, according to a report out of Marine Traffic. The ships bound for Malaysia crossed after earlier delays, potentially signaling easing conditions after Iran restricted the key oil and gas route. Well, yeah, they're putting up a toll booth there, essentially, as little Marco said, and you pay them the money or they shoot you in the face. You can drive right by there, no problem, but you may get shot in the face, per Department of War. Continuing here, Iran continues to mock Trump. And so who's in charge? The Iranian Republic Guard, the Islamic Republic? Who the hell's in charge there? I don't think, it doesn't appear the White House knows, or they're not telling us. Here's more from Iran responded positively to Trump's threats and reopened the Strait of Hormuz, though only for 2 Chinese oil tankers. Oh, man. On to this big story. Now, hey, prepare now. Prepare now. Start your gardens. Get your preps ready. Get your spam. Prepare. I don't know what else to say. Prepare now while you can. Make sure you have access to clean drinking water, the bare basics, man. Start your victory garden now. Start working on, there's a lot you can do right now. I would say prepare for economic depression. Prepare for, who knows, an escalating war here now. Okay, on to this Freemason story out of France. 22 people are set to stand trial in France today over murder and other serious crimes linked to a Masonic lodge accused of running hit squads. A Masonic lodge is the basic level unit, like a chapter of a club of Freemasonry. Masons are accused by some of secretly controlling world governments, banks, New World Order, orchestrating revolutions, hiding satanic anti-Christian rituals, and being linked to the Illuminati. I don't know what could give people that idea. I don't know. Crazy conspiracy theorists that used a dollar bill before in their life maybe looked at the back of it and said, I wonder what that is. More on this, reporting from AFP. Let's take a look at this story. French Masonic Lodge at heart of murky murder trial. I'm going to go ahead and read you this whole story from the AFP. 22 people went on trial in France on Monday on charges of murder and other serious crimes centered on members of a Masonic lodge accused of running hit squads. 13 of the defendants face life imprisonment. Those in the dock include 4 military personnel from France's Foreign Intelligence Service, DGSE, 2 police officers, a retired domestic intelligence officer, a security guard, and 2 business executives. They are accused of the murder of a racing driver, the attempted murders of a business coach and a trade unionist, aggravated assault, and criminal conspiracy, all on behalf of a mafia network inside the former Athanor Masonic Lodge in Paris suburb of Putenex. Several Freemasons from the 20 or so members of the lodge are in the dock. Most of the accused, aged between 30 and 73, have no previous criminal records. Yeah, because every time they ran into trouble, another Freemason let them off the hook. They leave that part out of this report. The alleged ringleaders are Athanor Freemasons, Jean-Luc Bagger, Frederick Vaglilio, and Daniel Ballou. They face life in jail if convicted. So does Ballou's right-hand man, Sabatian Leroy, who is not a member of the Freemasons Lodge. He is accused of carrying out the trio's dirty work himself or through a hitman network. The case was triggered by a botched contract killing in July of 2020 when 2 members of the military were arrested in possession of weapons near the home of business coach Marie-Helene Diani. Under questioning, they said they thought they had been asked to murder Diani on behalf of the French state on the grounds that she worked for Aardvarkland spy agency Mossad. Escalating crimes. Investigators discovered a link to Bagger, who is a business coach rival of Dani's, as well as being a 69-year-old venerable master of the Freemasonic Lodge. According to the investigation, Bagger asked fellow Freemason Vaglino to arrange to have his rival eliminated for a fee of 70,000 euros, or roughly 80,600 US dollars. Vaglino, a 53-year-old entrepreneur, allegedly acted as an intermediary between the big boss and a hit squad working for fellow Freemason Ballou, now 72, a retired agent for the Domestic Intelligence Services. The leader of the hit squad, Leroy, admitted in police custody that he and his associates carried out most of the Freemason Mafia's assaults. robberies and murders, including the killing of a racing car driver. As time went on, the crimes ordered by the Freemason Mafia escalated from petty revenge attacks to homicide, the investigation showed. In a case of industrial espionage, Leroy's gang allegedly assaulted a businesswoman in the street and snatched her computer. The car of one of Bagur's associates went up in flames in 2019 after she discovered evidence of financial fraud within his company. In 2018, the body of racing driver Laurent Pasquilli was found in a forest. He had been bumped off allegedly for not paying a debt he owed to friends of Vaglino's. Leroy, a security guard, told police he thought he had been acting all the time on behalf of the government. He complained that Belize had manipulated him and dangled the idea of him becoming an informant for the DGSI domestic spy agency. Jean William Vizanet, the lawyer of the targeted business coach Denis, said, "What my client found terrifying is the fact that the key figures in this case, police officers, former DGSI agents, and Freemasons, are precisely the people who are supposed to act for the good of society. It is unclear what information the prosecution may be able to elicit from alleged ringleader Bellew. He made an apparent attempt to kill himself in police custody, which left him disabled and with impaired concentration," his lawyer told AFP. The trial is expected to run for at least 3 months. So there's a big murder conspiracy linked to the Freemason Lodge. I found it funny. They said they thought they were working for the government to knock off an alleged aardvark spy. As a funny detail in this AFP report. We'll follow that as it develops. On to the Epstein files. Here's some protests from the No Kings. Looks like these guys got it right. Here is your Epstein list in living color. I'm muting the music on it because they tag you for copyright, and half the time they block your video or whatever. But anyway, you could see here the Handmaiden's Tale outfit with carrying signs of all the major figures listed in the Epstein files. So I'd say this is a proper protest here, continuing to expose the Epstein class. Even though the No Kings protests are obviously astroturfed, funded by Soros, amongst others, left-wing agitators. And so diverting real public outrage against the government into I hate Trump all day, which is by design. And that's all well and good to hate Trump, but we got the Epstein files hanging out there. The DOJ is continuing to cover up the Epstein files. And so it's not only corrupt Trump, it's the entire rot of the government, the crime syndicate known as the federal government. Maybe someday, some way, somehow, people can wrap their minds around this fact, i.e. the government is insolvent, sending young men and women off to die in another illegal foreign war of aggression, and the propaganda is not even any good. Group behind Epstein Trump statues, we featured that, what was it, last week? They've now put up a giant golden toilet sculpture installed on the National Mall there for Trump. Very fitting. Very fitting. NPR reported today Epstein used philanthropy as power. He donated to Harvard, MIT, and dozens of other institutions. In return, he got credibility and access to the world's most powerful academics. The institutions kept all the money. Most have not returned it. Hasn't that been the story since they established philanthropy here in America? Is it's always been abused by the rich and powerful. A government watchdog group is in federal court right now. They are trying to force the DOJ and FBI to release Epstein records before Pam Bondi's April 14th sworn testimony. The hearing is happening right now, 15 days until Bondi testifies. That's reports from Epstein Files Search on the X. Nancy Mace, again, trying to make political capital out of what are obvious, extremely concerning and public interest of this whole Epstein class out there. And she's doing all this, I believe. Maybe she really does care. Who knows? I don't trust any of these politicians. She's running for South Carolina governor. I don't know. They elected Lindsey Graham allegedly as senator. Anyhow, she's sitting U.S. Congresswoman out of South Carolina. She says DOJ memos came to us already redacted from the Southern District of New York. What are they hiding? Who are they protecting? Well, everybody that's redacted, obviously. So we don't have the full Epstein files. The DOJ is violating the law right now as we speak, screaming about law and order all over the place. As they violate the law, they've doxed the victims. Many victims have been doxed by the DOJ's botched release, which I believe was intentional to muddy the waters. But before we even have all the documents, it's being announced now Sony Pictures Television is shopping a project starring Laura Dern to go ahead and run a Jeffrey Epstein story TV series. So we may get a TV series, a scripted TV series before we get the actual files from your DOJ. But hey, at least the director of the FBI, Kash Patel, won the gold medal for Epstein cover-ups. So we can at least always hold on to that fact. Steve Bannon's at CPAC, how he's the great right-wing populist leader. They're in Epstein files, good buddies with Epstein. How's anybody take this sloppy Steve character serious anymore? I don't understand. But there he is at CPAC. We only got that 1-2 hour clip of him basically praising Epstein. Remember, after his conviction, he was working with Epstein. Steve Bannon's working with Epstein to rehab his public image after being a convicted sex criminal. And that's your great right-wing populist man, Steve Bannon. It's just, wow. Epstein victims to get $72.5 million from Bank of America settlement. Again, these big banks send the U.S. Marshals right now, arrest all of their executives. They're complicit in all of this trafficking. The money goes somewhere. They know. They can track it. They know what's going on. They're complicit in it. No criminal charges ever against any executive of any of these banks. They simply pay a fine, the cost of doing business, for laundering money from Epstein trafficking network and other illicit contraband that he was into. You name it, he was into it as a Rothschild agent. Bank of America has agreed to pay victims of Jeffrey Epstein $72.5 million to settle a New York federal class action lawsuit claiming the bank facilitated his sex trafficking operation. It wasn't only Bank of America, it was JP Morgan Chase. They settled for $290 million. Deutsche Bank settled for $75 million. So $437 million so far in settlements from these banks for enabling Epstein's trafficking network, and yet no criminal charges against any executives from any of these banks. Again, it's simply the cost of doing business if you get caught for these banks. Ro Khanna today, he was co-author with Massey of the, well, let me show you his post here. On the Democrat side of things, Ro Khanna says, as a co-author of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, I'm respectfully requesting King Charles to meet privately with survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's and Ghislaine Maxwell's abuse during his U.S. visit. Now, isn't this just trolling the King of England? Why would you? And here's the letter he wrote to him. Why would you want him to meet with the victims so they can be re-traumatized by Jimmy Savile's best friend, the King of England? Disturbing, to say the least. And what else? That's about all we have for today on the Epstein. We're going to keep following the developments there. Let's read this one more time. From Jeffrey Epstein to Larry Summers. Recall, I've told you, I've met some very bad people. None as bad as Trump. Not one decent cell in his body. So yes, dangerous. Again, that's Jeffrey Epstein to Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary and now defrocked, defamed former Harvard business professor. Yeah. Australian sky turns blue as apocalyptic blood red. This is crazy. Here's a crazy video report out of the failing New York Times. Let's watch this short report. Pretty wild here with the trying to get it lined up here. So yeah, it's turned red there in Australia as they're suffering gas rationing as well. From Friday. So that's always nice, apocalyptic scenes out of Australia. I don't know why this one's making the rounds. We reported like 2 weeks ago, but apparently it's making the rounds again. This is your North American Union, American Technate. It's now has official name, Greater North America. Greater North America. And we reported on the time when this came out of the Department of War, Pete Hegseth. I think that was like 2 weeks ago, but it's making the rounds again. By the way, we're in a new world order. We're in a new era And they're building out the greater North America. I saw some big accounts sharing this today. I was like, yeah, that's nice. We reported on it 2 weeks ago when it actually happened, but okay. Thanks for recycling that old news once again for us. Here's some propaganda memes out of the Department of War. They've been very quiet today. Let's actually check them live. Overwhelming air dominance. Let's see if the Department of War has any more updates. Well, tomorrow we'll get a press conference and see nothing else today from the Department of War. But we will get a press conference tomorrow morning to brief us on how the war effort's going. These are the new low-cost unmanned combat attack systems. Lucas, cheap, scalable, operational. And what the hell? Why not spend another 4 or 5 million on these Patriot missiles? So we're burning up all the old supply and now allegedly going to use these lower cost drones on the in battles with the Iranian drones. The future of warfare is here, calling on industry for Swath Forge, seeking AI-enabled drone swarm tech to empower our warfighters. And this is from the Department of War. They haven't even changed their name. They need to change it to Department of War. They're still the DoD, Chief Digital and AI Office. Skynet Live? I don't know. Feels like we're getting closer every day. It may very well be live now. So over the weekend, this was yesterday, they honored the Vietnam War veterans. And they're getting ready to start another Vietnam. We've learned nothing. We've literally learned nothing. Here they are, honoring the dead soldiers of Vietnam yesterday. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, he says, we will always remember what our Vietnam veterans gave and the courage they showed. Their sacrifice will never be forgotten. For what? A false flag? A literal made-up attack in the Gulf of Tonkin started that war? Just beyond the pale of disgusting. And to sit here and act today like any of it is legitimate it's treason. It's disrespect to the dead troops. So quit lying. Quit lying. Oh, here's some good news. U.S. Embassy in Venezuela formally reopens for the first time since 2019. Russia defies U.S. blockade on Cuba, delivers emergency fuel supplies. A Russian tanker carrying 100,000 tons of oil has arrived in Cuba amid an ongoing U.S. naval blockade. That was reported by Russian media today, actually. So, yeah, there's an ongoing siege of Cuba going on right now. Surprised they didn't bomb that Russian ship. But Russia's reporting the aid made it through, as Trump told us over the weekend, Cuba's next, and they've been signaling that for a while. They've been signaling that for a while as Cuba is under siege, blockade, blocking food, water, medicine, energy coming in there as part of the Greater America Project. The Greater North America. That's what Department of War Secretary Pete Hegseth says. The map on the wall says Greater North America Project. So it looks like they couldn't trick the Kurds this time. Remember the reporting that the U.S. was trying to persuade Kurdish militia groups to join in the Iran war? U.S. aardvark plan to back a Kurdish ground invasion of Iran early in the war collapsed after leaks, regional backlash, and doubts about success. According to Channel 12, out of aardvark land, including the Mossad, had long developed a plan to support tens of thousands of Kurdish fighters crossing from Iraqi Kurdistan into northwest Iran under heavy U.S. aardvark land air cover, aiming to trigger a broader anti-Iranian regime uprising. But after media leaks exposed the plan, Iran reinforced its defenses, pressured Baghdad, and ramped up activity in the region. Turkish President Erdogan warned against Kurdish gains. Gulf states cautioned about destabilization, and Kurdish factions demanded political guarantees, doubting Washington's reliability. Facing lost surprise and mounting risk, Trump reportedly deemed the operation too dangerous and scrapped it. Well, they have no problem sending the Marines in there, though. So, yeah, turns out Kurds are not buying that BS to be cannon fodder as the first line of ground troops into Iran there. Iran-linked hackers have breached at least 50 aardvark land security cameras and wiped out data from 60 aardvark land companies since the beginning of the war. Aardvark Land National Cyber Directorate says the camera hacks were likely used to assess missile strike damage and track aardvark land troop movements. Most company targets were small and mid-sized firms, with some data permanently destroyed. Iranian cyber activity has also increased in the United States and Gulf states as cyber warfare escalates on both sides. Kill marks on an Iranian Shahed 136 drone. The E-3 Sentry, that's that fancy spy plane. They shot that one down. The THAAD radar system and the ANMPQ-65 Patriot radar, they blew all that stuff up. And now they're tagging their drones with their kills. Netanyahu orders expansion of southern Lebanon occupation as Hezbollah attacks increase. They're going to take it to the Litani River, they stated claim, as the ethnic cleansing campaign of Lebanon is live right now. The back and forth here now. Who's to blame for attacking civilian water infrastructure? Iran denies responsibility for depraved attack on Kuwait distillation plant. So who attacked it? Iranian forces have repeatedly accused Washington and Tel Aviv of carrying out false flag attacks since the beginning of the Iran war. They're claiming they didn't. Iran says they didn't do it. They didn't attack the Kuwaiti water distillation plant. Who knows? They're claiming it was a U.S. aardvark land false flag operation to destabilize and destroy the region. Who knows? Who knows? But what we do know is that their water distillation plant's blowing up. We do know that. Iranian armed forces deny Kuwaiti distillation plant strike, accuse Aardvark land of false flag. It's not like they have a history of doing such attacks or anything. Aardvark land strike kills UNIFIL soldier in southern Lebanon. I thought this was an old report. No, it's a new one. They whacked some more of these UN peacekeeper troops. This outfit was out of Indonesia. And yeah, they went in and whacked them. So they're whacking UN continually. How many of them? UN peacekeepers. UN, UNIFIL, the United Interim Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, says they're investigating now. More than 50 Lebanese healthcare workers have been killed since March 2nd. UAE jails dozens of UK citizens for posting footage of Iranian strikes. The censorship is brutal. It's brutal. Here's some footage. The moment Aardvark land attacked a building in Al Rahib in Beirut. So you could see clear civilian commerce area. They have no problem bombing the hell out of it in downtown Beirut. Continuing here. Where are we at? We're on Keys. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. Is that who's running it? Who's running it? There's reports that IRGC is running things now. But second son Khomeini is allegedly the supreme leader there now. So who's really running things? Who's really running things in Iran? Well, the IRGC announced Wave 87 of Operation True Promise 4, as Trump says we won the war every day. That's news to the IRGC that continues to launch waves of attacks as part of Operation True Promise 4. What's the latest? Let me just check here. Well, we'll do it at the end. Islamic Resistance in Iraq reports that yesterday its fighters have carried out 21 operations in which dozens of drones and missiles were used against enemy bases in Iraq and the region. Yeah, everybody's like, but are they still killing all the Palestinians? Yeah, sad to say, sad to report, the genocide against the Palestinians in Gaza is ongoing. According to the Gaza Ministry of Health, 1 Palestinian dead, or actually 2 dead, 2 dead and 1 injured in the last 24 hours on the Gaza Strip. So the genocide on the Palestinians is continuing amidst the Iran war. This is a weird one out of left field, I guess. Kosovo to join International Stabilization Force in Gaza. Kosovo approved today the deployment of troops to Gaza as part of an international security force under the International Stabilization Force. Are they famous for doing the human hunting there? I'm sure they'll be happy to do some human hunting of Palestinians. More on that. Several countries, including Indonesia, Morocco, Kazakhstan, and Albania, have pledged forces to the International Stabilization Force under President Trump's Board of Peace. Board of War Criminals is actually what it is there. And so it looks like they're sending in some Kosovo troops to man the human hunting programs that I'm sure they'll be carrying on in Gaza soon. Aardvark Land Radio reports that 10 missiles targeted Haifa and its Bay Area, with some landing on an oil complex and 2 buildings in Kairat Ada and Safarm. A gasoline tank at the Bazin refineries was damaged, and the company's stock fell by 2.5% on the stock exchange due to the joint Iranian-Lebanese strike, blowing up energy infrastructure, blowing up civilian infrastructure, blowing up the whole damn place. Again, we're not getting many reports out of Aardvark Land due to heavy censorship. We are getting reports of the missile siren warning system. Here's some more from today. Don't confuse this with the sex offender map out of Aardvark Land. 2 different maps, many times overlapping. There you go. Missile warning sirens heard today in multiple Aardvark locations as per the maps. Where are we at here? Here's a little roundup per Bloomberg. Since February 28th, Iran has launched nearly 1,200 ballistic missiles and 4,000 drones at targets across the Persian Gulf. That's forced the United States and Gulf states to burn through roughly 2,400 Patriot interceptors, basically wiping out a huge chunk of their pre-war stockpiles. On top of that, America is also rapidly using up high-end missiles like Tomahawks and JASSMs, that the exact weapons the Pentagon wants to keep for a potential fight with China. In just a few weeks, the United States has burned through roughly a year's worth of expensive munitions that are very hard and slow to replace. Allies are already getting nervous that this Middle East war is draining America's ability to support Ukraine and detour China at the same time. The arsenal isn't infinite, and the meter is running fast, according to a report out of Bloomberg. Trump told us unlimited weapons, just literally live in fantasy land and visit Disney World with old Lindsey Graham and wave around your little pink baton. Aardvark Land finds no ethical wrongdoing in the killing of one of its own farmers after initially blaming Lebanon for the incident, leading credence to the fact that maybe it was a false flag attack on that water distillation plant in Qatar. Let's take a look at this report out of the Cradle. The Aardvark Land military said yesterday that an investigation found no negligence or ethical failure in the killing of Aardvarkland farmer Offer Mostakovs earlier this month. The head of Aardvarkland's Northern Command said on March 23rd that Aardvarkland forces had mistakenly fired artillery, killing the 60-year-old avocado farmer from the Upper Galilee settlement of Misgav Am. Aardvarkland had initially blamed the incident on cross-border fire from Lebanon. The inquiry found that the fire was carried out during an operational incident, providing close support to the maneuvering forces. The Aardvarkland military said in a statement. It also determined that the error resulted from a convergence of several operational factors and non-optimal firing conditions. Alongside this, no negligence was found, nor was any ethical failure identified among those involved in the firing process within the artillery unit. So there you go, a dead aardvark farmer. They even admit they did it. Wasn't our fault, because ethics are a conspiracy theory, you see. I still blame Lebanon. What the hell? Even though they admit. U.S. deployed new precision missile at start of the Iran war, massacring 21 in strike on school and sports hall. Yes, again, it was a ritualistic blood sacrifice to kick this whole thing off to their god, Baal, or whoever, whatever demon they're worshiping here now. The New York Times reports that the United States military used its precision strike missile, PRSM, produced by Lockheed Martin for the first time during the opening 24 hours of the Iran war. According to analysis, one of the strikes targeted a school and a sports hall in the city of Lamerd, killing 21 people and injuring around 100 others. The attack in Lamerd happened just hours after the strike on the Minab Girls' School, which killed over 100 children. The PRSM is a new surface-to-surface missile system being introduced by the U.S. Army and Marines to replace the older ATACMS platform, with much of its capability still undisclosed, though it is reportedly able to strike targets up to 400 miles away or 644 kilometers away. They killed all these children as part of a ritualistic blood sacrifice to kick off this whole war. Here is a former U.S. intelligence officer, Josephine Galeo, talking more about the Minab school strike. Straight up war crime.
And it was, without a doubt, a school if you looked at it through satellite imagery. It was, without a doubt, a school when you looked at it through the onboard camera of the Tomahawk missile. Multiple sources, including intelligence reports, regional sources, and U.S. officials are required to confirm a target for the U.S. Navy and military operations to ensure accuracy and reduce errors. This is how it works. This is how it worked that day. NBC News reports USS Sprunitz, a guided missile destroyer, shot the Tomahawk. Commander Leigh R. Tate, Executive Officer Jeffrey E. York, commanded USS Sprunitz, who shot a tomahawk and killed 165 little girls. No pause for investigation. No calls for this command to appear in front of Congress and report to the American people why we just bombed a school knowing it was a school. Who are the terrorists? Who are the bad guys in this story?
Well, it's obviously the school kids, the damn Iranian school kids. Shouldn't even have been at school. Trying to learn something's a conspiracy theory. They're stacking bodies on all sides. It's horrific. Stop shooting each other. Of course, it won't happen, but it needs to happen. Even aardvarks are suffering losses, and this is through the censorship. It's being reported 19-year-old IDF soldier here, Loren bin Zion, is killed in southern Lebanon. This poor character right here, 19-year-old, dead aardvark. Sacrifice for the cause. This is getting insane. Aardvark land Knesset passes controversial law authorizing the execution of Palestinian prisoners. That's a headline out of the Associated Press. Aardvark Knesset approves execution law for Palestinian detainees. 62 voted in favor, 47 against. Detailed clauses are now under discussion. And this maniac was falsely reported was whacked. Still around, Ben Gvir, the consummate provocateur, he celebrated with some champagne upon the passage of this vote. Aardvark Land National Security Minister Ben Gvir, outside the Knesset chamber, celebrates the passing of the death penalty law for Palestinian detainees. Soon we will count them one by one. You support this, America? MAGA? Republicans? You support this?
השר, על מה כל החגיגה? מוות המחבלים עבר היום, חוק מוות המחבלים, היסטוריה, היסטוריה. בעזרת השם בקרוב, אחד אחד להוציא להורג, כל אלה שטבחו ורצחו ושרפו, לחיים, לחיים ישראל.
So they're literally going to do the final solution on these Palestinians they have in their prisons. Yeah, never again, huh? Tell me that. Tell me that, never again. So they're doing it. They're going to do it. They're going to kill all these Palestinians they have in custody on trumped up charges. They're going to say it's killing the terrorists. It's real bad, man. It's real bad. They're targeting civilian infrastructure. They're targeting Iranian water, oil, electricity. It's real bad. It's real bad. Let's pray for peace. That's all the reporting I got for today. Let's go to the channels, over to the Odysee. We have some chat over there. Thank you guys for joining the chat. John, Gurr, Huffman. Let's see here. John says, Hegseth and Trump are putting those guys in harm's way. Predictably, Aardvark Land says their troops will not be part of the invasion of Iran. Yep. Yep. What's Gurr say? Bulletproof glass versus Iranian. I'm talking about Trump's bunker there under his ballroom that's been exposed through the lawsuit. The real reason they're building it. John says most of the white guys in the military join because they can't find jobs in their poor rural area. Where I reside, the kids join right out of high school in hopes of getting some technical training that will pay off later. There's also the propaganda in film and television that is ubiquitous indeed. Indeed. Poor. That's who goes and dies in these wars. Poor people. In the recruiting commercial, there was not one mention of killing or death. Everyone's so clean too. I think combat involves a lot of dirt. It's horrific. Huffman says, have I missed the blood moon? There is a bright one out there tonight. I don't keep up with the blood moon announcements. China liked the lunar calendar more than we do for some reason. LNG is all about Germany. Has since the U.S. took out the pipeline. No, John, come on, everybody. Putin bombed his own pipeline, right? Come on. Let's see here. Deep there as well on the Odysee. Thank you guys for tuning in there. Huffman says there's a government and the army in Iran. It's just not a family like the ones we support. Yeah. The ones Trump wanted quadrupled cost $2 million each, and they are only produced at about a dozen a year. They fire two packs. They fire two of the pack threes at a time, and every one they are intercepting. That was powerful testimony by that woman. I agree. That's why I played it for you guys. Again, that was a ritualistic blood sacrifice to kick off this war. They knew damn well exactly the target they were hitting. Thank you guys for tuning in on the Odysee and keeping that chat going. Thank you everybody for tuning in on X, Kick, Twitch, Bitchute, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. Let me go over to these, try to get some Rumble chats. I'll just start right here. Fat Bob said, I know Iran really wants all that Epstein class stuff foisted on them. A ruckus on the YouTube. Is the robot free? TSA stopped thousands of terrorists in their tracks. Fat Bob said. They didn't, Bob. They just simply didn't. Of course, a terrorist would never blow themselves up in a really long line before TSA. They say voting is fun. Fat Bob. Ruckus says Trumpus Maximus. Starting to turn into one of these famous Roman Caesars, right? That's lost their friggin' mind. It's starting to appear that way. It's starting to appear like they're losing their cotton picking mind, man. Or just everything out of their mouth's a lie. That's part of it too. On the Rumble, Bartow. Shout out for tuning in there. I think they're still censoring YouTube chat comments, honestly. Bartow, some stripper out of Colorado, said on TikTok a bunch of Army patrons have been spending money. I saw that. Yeah. Hell, we got videos of their families signing off on their deployment. You know, what is free on the YouTube says, "Good day, fellow stagflation enjoyers." Donald Trump is Jesus Christ. Messenger 911 on Rumble said, but without actual. And then Bob replied, but without actual magistry. No way. Masons in France. Unheard of. I want to become a Mason. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. Aren't they making the AC/DC song like a documentary? It certainly appears so. France squaring the circle, Free said on the YouTube. Indeed. Is Mick Jagger an Epstein class icon? I think he is. He's in a bunch of photos with him, right? And all this weird stuff about the Rolling Stones doing blood changes and worshiping Satan, and the famous killing by the Hells Angels at their concert in the 60s. That's been said to be some type of ritualistic blood sacrifice. I'd say Mick Jagger is an Epstein class icon indeed. Indeed. And sad to say, because I do like the Rolling Stones a lot more than the Beatles, but we got to call them as we see them. And that was from Mac on the YouTube. Let's see here. ZO, Poseidon nukes, the radioactive tsunami nukes that can wipe out the East Coast. Yeah, it's climate change, right? Let's see here. Jan on the YouTube. Aardvark land, most evil bastards on earth. Yeah. They're literally they're in large part indicted from posting their own war crimes, right? From the International Criminal Court. Ben Gavir's cheering they're going to go ahead and do the final solution with Champagne and a bunch of other aardvarks celebrating they're going to do the final solution on Palestinian detainees. So yeah, Nazis ain't got nothing on them. It's the same spirit, same mindset here now. Isn't it? Young on the YouTube. Same coffin he sleeps in every night. USA is being demilitarized, Denver says, by itself. We are using a lot of munitions. A lot of munitions. That's for sure. Bardo says Trump seems to be getting more and more Biden-like each day. Right? What is Trump suffering dementia? Is he in this tiny echo chamber where they're just feeding him nothing but propaganda? Does it even matter at this point? It's just bizarre that Trump keeps saying we're negotiating with new Iranians. We don't really know who, but they seem a lot nicer. Like, what? Who are you talking to? Maybe Iran's lying. Iran says we're not negotiating with you. So who are they even talking to? Like, seriously, what's going on here? Maybe all sides are lying. Maybe they're at the Masonic Club all drinking tea and smoking their fat cigars, laughing about all of this. That may very well be true as well. All right, friends, we're going to keep reporting on this, as it looks like no sign. It looks like only escalation, no de-escalation here whatsoever, as they're targeting a bunch of civilian infrastructure all over the West Asia region, from Iran to Qatar to Saudi Arabia to aardvark land. It's only escalating at this point. Let me take a quick look. If I can get this thing to load. Let me take a quick look at the latest, greatest. We'll see what the Cradle says, and then Iran International, if any major events have happened since we've went live on air. It looks like nothing really out of the Cradle. More Iraqi militia mobilizations are being reported. Yeah. We're killing a bunch of Iraqis again. That should make Americans happy. Americans love killing Iraqis for some strange reason. I don't know why. What did Iraq ever do to you, America? You know what I mean? I guess they were going to blow us up with fake weapons of mass destruction. I guess that's good enough. So over 20 years later, from the first invasions of Iraq, we're back there killing Iraqis again. Imagine that. Iran International, the latest, and I'm going to sign off this broadcast. Tehran attacks container ship as U.S. says, and we got the cat on the show, orange cat. So that means it's time to go. My orange cat, Ruby, here. Say hi. We should get a lot of views for Ruby. I'm going to let Ruby out here. So I'm going to wrap up this broadcast as we were done anyway. Just the latest here out of IranInternational.com. And that's mainstream reporting. They say Tehran attacks container ship as U.S. says Iran talks going well. There are no negotiations. Like, what's up? There are no negotiations. Saudi Arabia says they have intercepted ballistic missiles targeting Riyadh and eastern regions coming out of Iran. Massive explosions hit Iran military depot near Esfahan. Iran's vice president issues warning about the presence of U.S. troops sent to Karag Island. CENTCOM posts USS Tripoli sailing to Indian Ocean toward the Middle East. Trump signals possible end of Iran campaign, even if the Strait of Hormuz remains blocked. That's the latest that we have there from the mainstream. And with that, let's pray for peace. Don't be deceived by these propagandist, evil liars. They've lied us into this war. They continue to lie. It's not righteous. It's not right at all. We attacked Iran. And so we're in the wrong here. Sad to say. I don't want to be in the wrong. But we as America are in the wrong here. And it's going from bad to worse as the government continues the never-ending stream of propaganda and lies. And again, I believe the U.S. casualties and injuries are a lot worse than what the government's telling us now, as we're lining up a bunch more troops to become cannon fodder. As Iran says, come on in, we're waiting for you. And I don't doubt that they are. And it just looks like more of a disaster. Let's pray for peace. Let's pray for the troops' safety. It's a damn shame where we're at here. And with that, as always, everybody do your own research, peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Monday evening. We'll be back here on Tuesday for more